Hi, I'm Jacob Hornberger, president of the Future of Freedom Foundation. Welcome to Trump Watch. President Trump is putting renewed meaning into the term tar baby. I think it'd be difficult to find a better term as to what this guy is experiencing or suffering from with his and the Israeli government's war of aggression on Iran. I mean, look, they've destroyed the entire military of this third world country that's been hollowed out by sanctions for decades, destroyed their navy, destroyed their army, destroyed their air force. They've destroyed government buildings. They've killed the upper echelons and the middle echelons of the government's leaders. They've accomplished the total destruction of the ability of this third world country to defend itself. They just obliterated any kind of military defense. And President Trump can't let it go. Okay, now, it's not real clear what he's been aiming for from the beginning, but if it was that, we need to be scared of Iran, they're coming to get us, sort of the old thing we always heard about Saddam Hussein and the Taliban and the communists during the Cold War. They're always coming to get us, you see. That's the old standby argument to get Americans to support all this interventionist nonsense. But there's no chance they're coming to get us now. I mean, how are they going to come and get us? It's incredible, but he can't let go. He says, well, okay, things are winding down now. Oh, we've achieved our aims. Well, except for unconditional surrender. He was portraying himself as Franklin Roosevelt in World War II, where Roosevelt demanded unconditional surrender of the Germans and then the Japanese. And so, he was going to kind of step in their footsteps, except that now he seems to have dropped the unconditional surrender demand because it doesn't seem like it's coming easy. I think clearly what Trump envisioned was that Iran was going to do what Venezuela did. And, this is the problem oftentimes with so-called successful interventions. It just encourages them. And it's clear that what happened in Venezuela, where the Venezuela new interim leader, after they kidnapped Maduro and brought him over to New York to stand trial for their drug war violations, she became the new interim president, even though she's never been elected to anything. And even though she's under investigation by the DEA, and her Minister of the Interior has been indicted the same way Maduro has, but they're letting him stay into power. But she became a puppet. And she realized, I can't fight this. And it's difficult to blame her. I mean, Trump had this oil embargo, blockade, really, where the whole country was going into a state of mass starvation, sort of like what they're doing or trying to do with Cuba. And so she said, okay, I'll become your puppet. And so she faithfully follows the orders of President Trump. He's ecstatic with her. He has dissed the dissidents there in Venezuela, the ones that were trying to oust this brutal regime. It's Trump and his minions say this is a narco-terrorist regime. I mean, okay, they knocked out Maduro, but it was never about Maduro. It was about his regime, socialist, communist. But we set all that aside. Apparently, these are good communists now. You see, because they're marionettes. They're just following orders. And the leader of the dissidents has pointed this out. She won't criticize President Trump or the U.S. national security establishment that is maintaining this narco-terrorist, communist, socialist regime into power. Oh, by the way, that also lost the election, the presidential election, but remained in power regardless. She's not going to criticize them, but she does criticize Delcy Rodriguez, the little puppet for Trump there in Venezuela, the new interim president, saying that all she's doing is following orders. And that's all it is. Well, that so-called success, and of course I wouldn't call it a success when you're partnering with a brutal narco-terrorist, communist, socialist regime and using your power to maintain it, the power. And I would not call that a success by any means, but they do. And so Trump wanted that in Iran. As soon as they killed the Ayatollah, they wanted a new ruler in there to say, I will be a Delcy Rodriguez. I'll be your new Delcy Rodriguez. I'll follow whatever commands you want. It's what Trump, I think, in my opinion, was settled for in Cuba. In other words, this is how the empire works. They want, to control countries all across the world and regimes across the world, and they don't need to put their person in, like a person from the United States takes over and runs the country. They can use somebody domestic as long as they follow orders. And I think this is the tar baby that has become Iran for Trump. He can't just walk away. I mean, all they have to do is say, look, we've achieved the total obliteration of their military machine. They'll never come and get us, at least not for the next 30, 40, 50 years. And so I'm walking away. I'm bringing the troops home. He can't do it. He wants to do it. You get a sense he wants to do it. He doesn't want to get bogged down, like Bush did, and Bush second in Iraq, and then the 20-year war in Afghanistan. You can tell he's just, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do that. And so he starts to walk away, and then he comes back because it's that tar. The tar just keeps pulling him back in. He can't stand the thought that this is a regime that's not becoming his puppet. And so what? Okay, so they close the Strait of Hormuz, or they don't close it totally. They're letting their buddies go in. Iranian ships are going in. Chinese ships are going in. Other ships that they like are letting in. It's just their enemies they're not letting in. Okay, so why doesn't Trump just walk away and say, okay, well, so they're doing it. Well, okay, gasoline prices have risen for Americans. Okay, big deal. I mean, is that enough that he should succumb to this tar? I mean, just walk away. Okay, we learned to live with higher gas prices for the indefinite future. Well, there's a problem there, you see, the midterms. Trump and the Republicans are scared to death of the midterms. And they're scared that people are going to say, why should we vote for you all if these gasoline prices are breaking us along with the tariffs? Let's not forget the tariffs and the economic damage that they have caused on the American people. And so that's why they can't just walk away. But really, what Iran's doing with this Strait of Hormuz is really just sort of a reverse sort of sanctions. I mean, Americans can get a very light sense with what's going on with the gasoline prices of what the U.S. government's been doing for decades to the people of Iran. Okay, the sanctions, Iran, Venezuela, Cuba, Russians, whatever, wherever there are sanctions in the world, they target the citizenry with misery and suffering. And I've said this over and over again. This is evil. When you target innocent people with privation, desperation, economic devastation, starvation, illness, not being able to get medicines. 8 million Venezuelans fled the country, not just because of the socialist system, as conservatives and right-wingers like to point out, but because of this blockade, this embargo, the sanctions that made things worse. It's like a vice. This is what Republicans, conservatives just cannot confront, is the evil within their own government. And sanctions are evil because they target innocent people. Well, okay, so who's getting targeted with this Strait of Hormuz thing? It's the American citizenry. The military is not going to have any problem getting their oil. Okay, or paying for their oil. They're asking for, $200 billion or something now. And you know that Republican-controlled Congress is going to get them whatever they want. The military has priority. When you're a national security state, the military has priority over everybody. Okay, that's including here in the United States. It's in Cuba, Venezuela, Korea, North Korea, South Korea, wherever. The military-industrial complex, the national security establishment, they have priority. So who's paying the price here? Well, it's the American citizenry. Okay, gasoline prices, $4 a gallon or so in some parts of the country. Okay, so it's a reverse sort of sanctions. The sanctions are falling on the American populace. Okay, so is that any reason to go over there and start blasting out their power plants there that again is targeting the citizenry? If they can't get electricity in those power plants, it's the citizenry that are going to hurt. They've already knocked out the whole leadership of this regime. They've knocked out their military, their Navy, their Air Force. I mean, there's nothing to fear from this regime, but there was never anything to fear. It's always been a lie. You know, to get people afraid, you have to say they're coming to get us. They're coming to get us. They did it with Saddam Hussein. He's coming to get us with those WMDs. General Colin Powell had the charts to prove it. They did it with in Vietnam, where they sacrificed 58,000 of my generation for nothing. For nothing, because they said the Reds were coming to get us. If we don't stay there in Vietnam, Jacob, the Reds will come and take over America, and the Reds are everywhere. You see, that was what the Cold War racket was all about, and NATO and the whole thing. The Reds were never coming to get us. And now, was there socialism in America? Of course, but it's homegrown socialism. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, public schooling, Federal Reserve, immigration controls. Americans love socialism as long as it's not called socialism, and that includes the right wing. Right-wingers, they love socialism, but just don't call it. None dare call it socialism. But Republicans, like Democrats, will support every socialist program that comes down the pike. The Postal Service right now just announced that they're losing an unbelievable amount of money. Still losing an unbelievable amount of money. They're asking congressional permission to borrow the money. What's borrowing going to do when you can't even make it? As it is, well, that's a government-owned institution. It's a government monopoly. But you don't see Republicans or Democrats saying, what in the world do we need a monopoly in the United States for? But it's got a monopoly on the delivery of first-class mail. Amtrak, another socialist program. The interstate highway system was the biggest socialist program, boondoggle in American history. Republicans and Democrats love it. They love socialism, but none dare call it socialism. So he's got this tar baby that he can't let go of. The reverse sanctions, if you will, are damaging American consumers. Okay, so what? Just bring all the troops home. You've destroyed this country. You can go on to another one, attack Grenada, and then pass out medals of honor and combat infantry badges and attack any other kind of third world country, especially one that's been under sanctions. Because that way you can ensure that you have total air superiority in the first day. You can just bomb to your heart's content, kill as many people as you want, including little children, doesn't matter. It's just foreigners. But just get out of there. Leave them. Is it not possible to leave Iran alone? I mean, there's just this obsession. Same obsession this with Cuba. And it's the obsession of an empire. They cannot stand the thought that there are nations in the world that are independent. This is why there was such animosity toward the independence movements in Africa, for example, or in other places around the world where they were in the 1960s, where they were trying to achieve independence from the British Empire and the French Empire. And the U.S. national security state considered these to be communist-driven uprisings. They couldn't see that people just don't want to be part of an empire. They don't want to be colonies of an empire or puppets of an empire. And John Kennedy understood that, which is why another reason they considered, the national security state did, that Kennedy was a threat to national security, because he supported these independence movements. And he understood why people don't want to be subject to an empire, controlled by an empire. And so that was part of the war between Kennedy and the national security establishment. So it's this empire mindset, not only Trump, but the whole national security state, which is longtime supporters of FFF know. I've long argued that they're the ones that are really in charge. The Pentagon, the CIA, and the NSA. They're the ones ultimately calling the shots in our governmental system. They're too powerful. Nobody's going to buck them. Trump's not going to buck them. We thought he was. Remember when he talked about draining the swamp and terminating the deep state and stuff? I knew that was never going to happen, because in his first term, he bowed to the CIA after he got into power. And so then when he ran again, he brought up the same lingo. He got libertarians all excited. Oh, he's one of us, Jacob. He's one of us. And I kept saying, no, he's not. No, he's not. And, now we're seeing this is not exactly a libertarian mindset or a libertarian philosophy. But it is interesting to see the right-wingers, how they deal with this concept of patriotism. I love it when I hear a right-winger say, if you don't support this invasion, this war of aggression, undeclared war, unconstitutional war against Iran, you're a coward. You're a America hater. You love the terrorists. You love the Ayatollah. And it's really funny because, with all this debate over pronouns and stuff, the right wing has always used the pronoun we when they talk about these interventions, that we need to do this and we need to do that. And they pride themselves on being courageous. We need to go and attack Iran, Jacob. And if you oppose it, you're a coward. So, oh, really? Well, what are you doing here? Because a lot of these right-wingers are like in their 30s or 40s, early 50s. They're not young enough to join the military. Go Google them or ask ChatGPT if whenever you see one of these right-wingers say, we need to do this, if they ever served in the military. And I will guarantee you that 98% of them will have never served in the military. Okay, but we need to do this, Jacob. Well, what they really mean by we is that the soldiers need to do this. And so it's a vicarious courage. It's like saying that we are brave when the troops are over there and, taking control over the Strait of Hormuz, Jacob. We need to send those Marines over there. So it's them. And then the right winger or the statist gets vicarious courage while he's over here, with his podcast or his op-ed writing, and he's sitting in his apartment, typing out and telling everybody how brave he is. And then patriotic too. You see, if you don't support the U.S. government, they'll say, well, you're not patriotic. We need to be patriotic in time of war. Okay? So what they're doing is, and this is the way the right-wing mindset works. Well, the left-wing mindset too, is they combine the government with the country. So when they say, if you're not supporting the government in this war of aggression, you hate America. You're an America hater. They don't understand that you're talking about two separate entities, America, the country, and the federal government. And the proof of that, 100% proof, is the Bill of Rights, which expressly protects the country from the federal government, which shows that if they were one and the same thing, that wouldn't make any sense. The only way the Bill of Rights makes sense is if you got two separate entities. So, in other words, it's very possible to love your country and hate the evil that your government is engaged in. The right-winger doesn't understand that. He thinks that if you love the government and love whatever evil the government is involved in, that means you love the country. Well, I would suggest it's the exact opposite. It means you hate the country. Because to love the country means getting the country on the right track. And the right track is the founding principles of this country of non-intervention. They say, oh, Jacob, isn't the Ayatollah a brutal regime? Well, yeah, there's a lot of brutal regimes in the world. The U.S. government's a brutal regime. Okay? But our founding foreign policy was the U.S. government would not go abroad in search of these brutal regimes to destroy, monsters to destroy. This was John Quincy Adams' famous address to the Congress, the 4th of July, 1821, in search of monsters to destroy. He says, we're not going to do that. We're not going to send troops to go and save you if you're suffering under one of these monstrous regimes. That's not what America's about. We're going to build a free society here as a model for the world to emulate. Oh, and by the way, if you get out and you want to get out, always know that there is one nation that you can come to that will not forcibly return you to your country of origin, where you're facing death and tyranny and so forth. That to me is a beautiful system, absolutely beautiful, because as Adam said, if you take the opposite position and you say, well, let's go, knock out the Ayatollah regime because it's a horrible, tyrannical, evil, immoral regime, you end up destroying your own society here at home. You lose your freedom here. I mean, and haven't we seen that? I mean, if you look at the post 9/11 environment, the Homeland Security, which is agency or department, which is, conjures up images of fascism, homeland. Oh, got to protect the homeland. And then the whole war on terrorism thing. Look at any tyrannical regime in the world. And you'll see that they've jumped on this war on terrorism business as a way to expand their tyranny. They saw it immediately. It's beautiful. Oh, whatever you want to go after, your domestic opponent's tyranny. Look at that guy in El Salvador. What's the title of that brutal penitentiary he has, where he has people jailed, where Trump sent those Venezuelan immigrants, where people are jailed without trial, without due process, where they're tortured. It's CCOT, and I forget what it's called, the whole name, but terrorism is in there. That's that T on CCOT. He knows that terrorism is the big boogeyman. It's like communism during the Cold War. And so you end up losing your freedom here as we did, or losing more of our freedom after the 9/11 attacks, the TSA, the whole thing, the surveillance schemes, the lack of privacy. In order to keep us safe from the dangers that they're producing, and that's what the 9/11 attacks were all about. They weren't just, oh, they hate us for our freedom and values, Jacob. Oh, it's the Muslims. The Muslims are establishing a caliphate. They've been doing it for centuries, Jacob. Oh, they're going to come and get Sharia law. Oh, Jacob, it's just like the communists. Oh, Jacob, they're coming to get us. It's just pure nonsense. This is what Adams was saying. You lose your liberty at home by becoming a dictator of the world. You get your dictatorship here too. And you can see it now with this attack. You see there's now attacks here in the United States. People, that are angry over what their countrymen, their friends, their neighbors, or whatever, people that are Muslim here or even just sympathetic, they're attacking people here. Okay, so what do they say? Oh, we got to keep you safe now. Got to keep you safe. See what they've done? It's a very clever way to solidify their power over us. And then Iran has said that they're going after tourism. Well, that means if you're an American traveling in France or anywhere else, Germany and in Europe, and some person just hates the United States and does what right-wingers do, is conflates America the country with America the government, he just walks up and shoots at America and his wife and his kids or whatever. For him, he's retaliating. And this is how they make life unsafe for us, but put us also under further control by these people. So this notion of, I'm being brave and courageous by supporting these foreign adventures and foreign wars and death and destruction, there's no courage at all. None. It takes no courage to support President Trump's and Benjamin Netanyahu's war on Iran and the national security establishment of both. No courage at all. What's going to happen to him for supporting this war? Okay? Trump loves them. It takes courage to stand up against your own government. That's where the courage comes in. I mean, this is like the story of the White Rose in Nazi Germany. Most Germans said, we're going to support our ruler in time, especially in wartime. You got to rally to the flag in times of war, Jacob. You can't really blame those Germans for rallying to the German government. That was their government. They're rallying to the government, except the White Rose. And if you never heard of the White Rose, I invite you to read my essay on fff.org, The Story of the White Rose. And they stood up against their own government, and they paid for it with their lives at the hands of their own government. So it takes courage to stand up against your own government. It takes no courage to support your government. So these people are saying, I'm a courageous person, Jacob. I'm supporting the war. It's totally ridiculous. All right. Another interesting thing is how they always blame it on radical Islam. They got radicalized. Why is it only Islam that gets radicalized? What about these radicalized Christians that are over there, preaching God's word as they're attacking a country that has never attacked the United States and killing people in the process? Well, why don't we say they've been radicalized? But when people fight back, no, they're radicalized Muslims, Jacob. They're radicalized Muslims. I said, well, maybe it's just they're angry over what you've done to them. I mean, if you look at the statements of the people leading up to the 9/11 attacks, it was all anger. The 1993 attack on the World Trade Center, Ramzi Youssef, he was one of them. He stood before a federal judge at sentencing and said, You call us terrorists? Okay, call me a terrorist. But you're the butchers. You're over there killing multitudes of children. Okay, you know how they just kill these 150 children? Now, I'm sure they'll say, oh, that's just an accident, Jacob. It's not an accident when you're dropping bombs on people. Those things happen. We all know they do. But it wasn't an accident when they were trying to kill them with sanctions, and when they were killing children in Iraq with sanctions. And Madeleine Albright, the U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, telling the United Nations that the deaths of 500,000 Iraqi children were worth it. I mean, that's a horrible statement. How can the deaths of children ever be worth it? How can killing children ever be worth it? Just regime change? But that was what she was saying, and that was the official position of the U.S. government. Why isn't that radical Christianity? Oh, they've been radicalized. It seems pretty radical to me to defend the killing of children on the basis of some regime change operation. This is why I keep saying that it's necessary for Americans to do some soul searching here. And what better time right now when we see what's going on here, where the tar baby has Trump embroiled in all this, and things are getting worse and worse. People are paying higher prices for gas, but I guarantee you the higher price of gas is nothing compared to what the U.S. government has done to the Iraqi people or the Cuban people or the Venezuelan people. And Martin Luther King said this is the greatest purveyor of violence in the world, and that's where the soul searching needs to come in. And that's where my series that I'm running now, The Evil Within, is. I would invite people to watch it because it's not easy to confront the evil within one's own system. But that's what we need to do as Americans. It's incumbent on us and as Christians to do the right thing. And sometimes that means confronting the wrongdoing of your own government. Now, there was an interesting exchange with Trump and the Japanese prime minister. I forget what her name is. But he was kind of making light, and they said, why didn't you, it was a press conference, and somebody asked, why didn't you give your allies warning of the attack on Iran? And Trump says, oh, surprise is very important. The Japanese know about surprise, right? And he looks at her, and to her credit, she didn't say anything in response, but then she starts praising Trump, which just boggles my mind the way these foreign leaders are so obsequious toward this ruler. But what she could have said was, President Trump, you're referring to December 7th, 1941, which President Roosevelt said was a day that would leave an infamy because it was supposedly a surprise attack, but it wasn't a surprise. Your president knew about it. Y'all had broken our code. We didn't know that. You broke our diplomatic code, and you were reading our messages. You knew that attack was coming, President Trump. What surprise are you talking about? That's, it's one of these things you wish people had said. I really wish he had said that. Because that's the way it was. Trump provoked the Japanese, again, using the same thing that Trump's using, an oil blockade, an oil embargo on Japan, knowing that they needed the oil for their war machine in China, and knowing that they would not back down, they would not withdraw. And so Roosevelt needed a declaration of war. He knew Americans were overwhelmingly opposed to getting involved in World War II after the massive fiasco in World War I, where American interventionism gave rise to Adolf Hitler and World War II, and Americans said, not again. So Roosevelt used the oil blockade to squeeze Japan into making a choice. Either withdraw your forces out of China, which they were never going to do, or try to knock out the American Pacific Fleet so that it couldn't interfere with them getting oil in the Dutch East Indies. And they chose that one. So it was never about Japan's coming to get us, Japan's coming to get us. Oh, this is a day they will live in infamy. And the reason Roosevelt said that was because it was a surprise attack. He said they should have declared war first, that would have been the right thing to do. Well, that's not what Trump did with Iran or Netanyahu. There was a surprise attack there. So does that mean, as I wrote in a recent blog post, that means that we need to reevaluate as to whether the Japanese attack on Pearl Harbor was really as lowbrow as Roosevelt said? And I think she could have also said, hey, why didn't y'all give us a warning on Hiroshima and Nagasaki that you were going to nuclear bomb these two cities? if you had given us a warning on it, we could have gotten at least the children out, the little boys, the little girls that were in elementary school, attending class when y'all dropped those bombs. But you didn't give us any warning. You just surprise attacked us with nuclear bombs. That would have been a heck of a statement, but she knows that would have set Trump off, and then we're back to the sanctions and on Japan and back to all kinds of things. So I'm sure that's why she kept her mouth shut, because she knows that Trump can go off and start threatening 100% sanctions and stuff for what you said, even though it's true that they could have given a warning before they dropped those nuclear bombs. And they shouldn't have dropped the nuclear bombs in the first place, because they were attacking little boys and little girls and seniors and women and non-combatants. I mean, that's what you're not supposed to do in war. You're not supposed to attack non-combatants. And the danger is that may be where this Iran thing is heading. That's the real danger of this escalation. That the tar baby gets so messy and so dirty that Trump or Netanyahu decides, oh, this is enough. I've had enough of the tar, and they resort to nuclear weapons here, which would be catastrophic. I mean, just totally catastrophic. But you can see the escalation taking place here, where they're now Trump's given this ultimatum about power plants. He's going to attack the power plants, which of course tax the citizenry. Iran says, well, if you do it, we're going to do it. And it just starts escalating up and into a very, very dangerous area. One never knows where these things can lead, but one can only hope that they would never, ever resort to that kind of measure. In any event, that's Trump watch. If there's anything good that can come out of this, I think it's this soul searching. That Americans are clearly opposed to this war, just like they were opposed to entry into World War II. But now, back then, presidents at least complied with the constitutional requirement of a congressional declaration of war. We can see that ever since America was converted to a national security state, they don't have any need to comply with the Constitution, which is our law, the law of the land that we put on them. They see no need to comply with that. The Pentagon, the CIA, and the NSA, and they just initiate wars, and then they get upset when they get embroiled in a tar baby as compared to what happened to Venezuela, and they start lambasting European countries for not coming to their assistance, and with escort ships and so forth in the Strait of Hormuz. And this is the time for some real soul searching of where we are as a nation, what our founding principles were, and how these entangling systems with their tentacles, I call them cancerous tumors on the body politic, became attached to the federal governmental system, including the national security state, including the drug war, including the concept of foreign interventionism, and others that I'm dealing with in my series, The Evil Within. How those became attached in semi-permanent parts and normalized parts of American society. That's where the soul searching needs to come into play. This is Jacob Hornberger. This is Trump Watch. Thank you for tuning in. And as always, thank you for your support of FFA.